You're sitting still. Nothing is touching your face. And yet, right under your eye, or along your eyelid, something starts to move. A small, rhythmic flutter. Not painful, not visible to anyone else, but unmistakable to you. You press a finger against it, hoping that will stop it. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. It lasts a few seconds. Then it's gone. Then, hours later, it returns. And here is what will surprise you. It wasn't random. In many cases, it was your nervous system reacting to something happening inside your body. If only you knew how to read the signs. To understand what's actually happening, you have to look at a muscle most people never think about. The orbicularis oculi, a muscle you've probably never noticed despite using it thousands of times every single day. A thin ring of muscle circling your eye, responsible for one job: closing your eyelid, instantly, whenever needed. It is one of the fastest reacting muscles in your entire body, capable of firing in a fraction of a second, which is exactly why blinking can protect your eye from sudden danger. But that remarkable speed comes with an unexpected trade-off. That remarkable speed also makes the system controlling it especially sensitive to subtle changes in nerve activity. Normally, this muscle contracts only when your brain deliberately signals it to. A clean, controlled command. Sent, received, executed. But under certain conditions, something changes. The exact mechanism isn't fully understood. Researchers believe the motor nerve fibers supplying this muscle can become temporarily hyper-excitable, producing small, spontaneous bursts of electrical activity, without a deliberate, voluntary command from the brain. Each burst triggers a tiny, localized contraction. That is the twitch. Not a symptom of illness, not a sign of nerve damage. In the vast majority of cases, it is called myokymia, a benign, temporary condition in which nerve fibers become more likely to fire spontaneously, affecting a small, localized area of muscle. But if these tiny nerve bursts are happening, why don't they happen all the time? Researchers believe the answer lies in a handful of surprisingly ordinary triggers. Sleep deprivation is one of the most strongly associated with eyelid myokymia. Researchers believe fatigue may increase the likelihood of spontaneous motor nerve activity, though the precise biological mechanism behind that link is still not fully understood. Stress follows a similar pattern. Elevated stress hormones can influence nerve signaling and muscle tension throughout the body, including in the small muscles around the eyes. And then there is a factor most people never think to consider: dry eyes. Dry eye irritation is strongly associated with eyelid twitching. The irritation is thought to increase the likelihood of twitching in susceptible people. The exact biological pathway is still being studied. Caffeine appears to play a role as well. As a stimulant, it increases overall nervous system activity, and in some people, this may increase the likelihood of eyelid twitching, though the exact mechanism isn't fully established. In other words, your eyelid may be twitching not because something is wrong with the muscle, but because nearby nerves are responding to fatigue, irritation, or overstimulation. Now, here is where it becomes more interesting. Here's something even stranger. The twitch often feels enormous, like your entire eyelid should be visibly shaking. Yet the person sitting across from you may not notice it at all. In fact, they're often far more noticeable to you than to anyone else. That's because myokymia typically involves only a small number of muscle fibers, supplied by a limited branch of the nerve. The contraction is real, but contained, which is why you can feel it distinctly while it remains invisible to everyone around you. Most episodes last anywhere from a few seconds to a few minutes, though some can persist intermittently over hours or even days, before resolving on their own once the underlying trigger eases. There is no single fix that works for everyone, but addressing the trigger directly is usually effective. For most people, improving sleep, managing stress, reducing caffeine if it appears to be a trigger, and treating dry eyes are enough for the twitch to fade on its own. In most cases, the excitability settles and the twitching simply stops. But there is an important distinction worth understanding. Ordinary eyelid myokymia is common, harmless, and self-limited. However, twitching that is persistent for weeks, spreads beyond the eyelid to other parts of the face, or is strong enough to force the eye completely shut may occasionally indicate a different condition, such as benign essential blepharospasm or, more rarely, hemifacial spasm, both of which involve the eyelid or facial muscles in ways distinct from ordinary myokymia and are worth having evaluated by a physician. That distinction matters. A brief, localized flutter that comes and goes, virtually always harmless. Persistent, spreading, or forceful twitching, worth medical evaluation. Return for a moment to where this began. That small flutter under your eye. Unprompted, unpredictable, impossible to ignore. Not damage, not randomness, just a small group of nerve fibers becoming temporarily more likely to fire on their own, causing a tiny part of your eyelid to contract until the underlying trigger gradually settled. And so, the next time you feel that flutter beneath your eye, you'll press a finger to it. You'll wait for it to pass. And now you'll understand what may have triggered it, and why, in most cases, there's no reason to panic. If you're curious about how your mind and our world really works, subscribe to WhyDecoded, because everything has a reason. We just haven't decoded all of them yet.